Did somebody wish to learn about one of the biggest stars of the 1970s? So you wish it, so it shall be. With a nod of her head and infectious smile, Barbara Eden worked her magic across over 100 episodes of I Dream of Jeannie. But that's just one bullet point in her 90+ years of life. I'm your host, Nostalgic Nick, and today we're going back inside that purple Jeannie bottle once again. Have you ever wanted to hear a Jeannie sing? What were her true feelings about Larry Hagman? How did icons like Marilyn Monroe and Lucille Ball nearly derail her career? And how did personal loss break apart Barbara Eden's family? We'll find out all this and more, so if you enjoy the deep dive, please give it a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed so we can grant you more wishes. But without further ado, let's get the Jeannie out of the bottle.
You did that very well, Master.
Making ends meet. Life can be full of surprises. Eden's life proves this better than most. Born on August 23, 1931 in Tucson, Arizona, her parents divorced just in time for the Great Depression to render them a day-to-day lifestyle without a lot of comforts. Her mother couldn't afford gifts, so she made them happy by singing. And Barbara Eden took up this hobby, which became a lifeline when she began singing in local bands. Eden had to play it smart, so this future icon joined Actors Equity, studied singing, and got a job at a bank. She also worked as a chorus girl for the famous supper club called Ciro's. Barbara vied for a spot in the industry when Marilyn Monroe was still the beacon of Hollywood. Being a pretty blonde meant becoming a sex symbol. And Eden kind of fit that formula, but some recruiters didn't think she was the full package. A talent scout told her bluntly that she didn't have a big enough chest. Good thing Eden didn't care. She focused on a character's depth instead of their looks. And by the mid-50s, she was becoming a television breakout star. I Don't Love Desi. We've talked a lot about Lucille Ball and her revolutionary TV show, and you should certainly check out those videos if you haven't yet. But how does Barbara Eden fit into this Lucy equation? Well, Desi Arnaz was a notorious flirt, and Eden found this out firsthand when she was brought in for Season 6, Episode 25, entitled Country Club Dance. Obviously, this was a huge deal. The show changed the landscape of sitcoms, and Desi cranked the charm up to 11, but Eden would not fall for it. Of course, out of respect for Lucille, she completely avoided Desi during rehearsals. As for Ball, she did not harbor any bad feelings towards Eden. In fact, she appreciated her efforts to avoid Desi's advances, and showed her gratitude by offering Eden a contract with Desilu Productions. Barbara had to turn it down because she was currently signed with 20th Century Fox. Famous friends. Barbara Eden caught a lot of people's attention. She calls Lonnie Anderson and Bob Hope good friends. She won the attention of Tom Jones and John F. Kennedy when he was a senator. The two crossed paths at a New York airport, said a quick hello, and he left a note with his number and the words, "Call me." She threw the paper out and regrets it to this day. Back in '57, during her chorus days, she even turned Elvis Presley's head. But for a full list of all his relationships, you gotta check out that list of lovers video we have. But Barbara says he was very polite and signed a photo for her sister that she still has. But outside of her marriages, Eden wasn't about any of that. She says for some people, the dating game is their life, but never hers. It's complicated. Eden's favorite memory from 5 seasons of I Dream of Jeannie comes from the very first episode. There was a slight hiccup when she had to say Jeannie's initial lines, which are actually spoken in Farsi. But she felt very special wearing that iconic costume, one that was made specially for her. It's also so special thanks to her on-screen partner, Larry Hagman. She said, quote, "From that day for 5 more years, Larry was the center of so many fun, wild, shocking, and in retrospect, memorable moments that will remain in my heart forever." No one could deny their on-screen chemistry, including Eden. She said the two clicked instantly and were just meant to be together. Larry even knew the secret spot she went to when she wanted to be alone and would join her to comfort her when she cried. It never became romantic, and for how much she loved being with Larry, Eden didn't like it when their characters actually got married. And she also had no clue he was battling demons disguised as substance abuse and jealousy that he wasn't a bigger solo star. Their friendship was just as kind as it was tough, but Eden was part of the saving grace that kept Hagman employed with the show when producers discussed replacing him with Darren McGavin. And when Larry passed away in 2012, it was very hard on Barbara to mourn someone she imagined would always be there by her side. Love and loss. Life has not been all magic and wishes come true for Eden. In fact, her personal life has been full of tragedy. She met her first husband, Michael Ansara, on a blind date, and the two fell madly in love. They got married, and Eden got pregnant just as Jeannie began. That wasn't an issue, even with the outfit. They worked quickly and shot carefully, and when Eden had a son named Matthew, the couple called the boy their lucky charm. Everything was perfect. Then Heartbreak. She got pregnant again in 1971, but the baby was a stillborn. And Eden fell into a crippling depression, which hurt her relationship with her husband, and divorce followed. Matthew would stay with Dad, and Eden would travel to see him. Jumped to 1977, and Eden was lonely, and advertising giant Chuck Fiegert filled that void. But then Chuck started using cocaine and hung out with a rough crowd. Soon he became abusive, so they split. Then in the 1980s, her mother got cancer, and Eden took it upon herself to care for her until she passed. Next and finally came realtor and architect John Eicholtz. The two tied the knot in 1991 and have been together ever since. How do they do it? Barbara says you have to walk in the other person's shoes when you're having a problem. But the worst of it all was still around the corner. In 2001, Matthew, her only son and lucky charm, died at just 35 years old. He'd been using drugs since he was a pre-teen when his parents' marriage fell apart. Addiction followed. A heroin overdose killed him just before his own wedding. Acting always helped Barbara cope with the loss, and she's still active in the industry. Her only regret is not getting therapy because there was a lot of negative stigma against it back in the day. But she also counts herself extremely lucky to have such a supportive family. Jeannie ever after. Most TV stars fear the dreaded typecasting, quickly try to distance themselves from their breakout role. But Barbara Eden has accepted Jeannie into her being.
Of all the things I have to thank Gary Kitzler for, meeting Barbara Eden may be the best.
In 2013, she attended the Life Ball AIDS benefit, dressed as Jeannie once again. She was 78 at the time and shared a photo on social media saying, quote, "Here it is, folks. The navel that put NBC on edge." Eden also has a one-woman show called On the Magic Carpet with Barbara Eden, all about her time as Jeannie. As for a proper return to the bottle, there have been lots of talks, but nothing has been final. But whenever one happens, Eden is set to play a significant role, likely an aunt or grandmother. And of course, there's no forgetting her memoirs, Barbara Eden, My Story, and Jeannie Out of the Bottle. And she's also penned a children's book. Ever since Bill Daly died in 2018, Barbara Eden is the last surviving cast member from this beloved magical show. The films. People magazine named Eden one of America's 200 greatest pop icons of the 20th century, and for good reason. On top of Jeannie, she's been in Brand New Life, a kind of second Brady Bunch, Dallas, and the actual Very Brady sequel as Jeannie. She was also terrific in Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Again, she's always embraced her Jeannie.
I want a Sunday kind of love.
Her musical career is mostly behind her, but she enjoyed 4 popular singles and almost as many albums from the 50s to the 70s. And in that time, she serenaded some important people too, including then President George W. Bush singing Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas for the tree lighting ceremony. And she also lent her singing talent to the Carol Burnett Show and the Smothers Brothers Variety Hour. Is it any wonder she has a Lifetime Achievement Award? Nope. Her filmography has something for everyone too. Want to see Tony Randall as a freak show leader? Check out 7 Faces of Dr. Lau. Or do you want a classic? It's gotta be Irwin Allen's Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. And of course, she's in loads of commercials for AT&T, Lexus, Old Navy, and much more. Quiet life. Since childhood, Eden has called California home, and that's where she enjoys life today with her third husband. Things are much quieter these days, just the couple and their adorable Labradoodle puppy Bentley. Of course, she keeps one foot in the industry door. Fans were excited for her 2020 appearance on Let's Make a Deal in a special called Decades Week. Of course, we had to get one Jeannie nod in, but when she's not at events, she exercises, usually weightlifting and walking. To keep feeling young at 90, she says don't overdo it, but don't limit yourself. Was that what you wanted, Master? Barbara Eden was and remains a titan in the industry, almost as magical as the character she played. So now it's your turn. What surprised you the most? Did you enjoy watching her Jeannie back in the day? Are you surprised that the magic seemed to rub off on her too, enjoying life at 90? Share your favorite memories in the comments below. We read them all. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so we can keep granting your wishes. But from all of us here at Do You Remember, we want to thank you for watching.